we knew coming into this year's recruiting class some of the needs that we had to meet. Certainly start up front. We knew the graduating class leaving Wildcat country were on both sides of the football in the trenches. So bringing some young guys in, some guys of size up front for the OL, DL were of the utmost importance. And I'll tell you, we have 5 O-linemen coming in that we're extremely excited about. And they're big, they're athletic, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for guys that can move. And that was, as we started this recruiting process, I think that was something we talked about at every level of football on both sides. Yeah, as you look at our class as a whole, I think the really primary strength that jumps out at me is the way we move, the way we run. We do put a very big emphasis on both sides of football being able to move. And I think that's measured in a lot of ways, right? That could, some people measure it in the 40s and shuttles. We really measure it watching football, and this class really moves well at all levels, from our secondary kids that are coming in to our up front kids to our quarterbacks, our running backs, our tight end. So really excited about the way we move. And the second part is they come from winning programs. There's quite a few state champions in this group of 24 odd committed kids that are going to be Wildcats, and we have a few more that will be added in the weeks to come. But right now, we're at 24 and couldn't be more excited about it. We think it's important, recruiting nationally, and so this class really represents that. We have 11 states represented just in this class alone, and they come as far wide as Los Angeles, California, where Kenny Collins, he's a running back slot coming into our program, played in one of the toughest high school conferences in the country, to right here in the backyard, Caden Bonofsky, who's a kicker, which we desperately needed some kicking depth in our program, who lives about a mile from campus. But if you really look at the big picture of this recruiting class and the geography of it, we did really well here in our own backyard. And that was a point of emphasis for me when arriving. I thought we could do better here locally in Charlotte, Winston-Salem. We think even far out as Raleigh, there's some really good football. And we have landed some great prospects from some great programs locally. Really excited about that. Linebackers, we're really excited about the group coming in. We think they're a very versatile group. We really got 3 young men that are entering the program. Josh Seppi, who's from a local program down here in Charlotte, who we think is actually maybe the steal of the class. Josh really coming off a summer injury that really held him back his senior year football-wise, and that slowed down his recruiting process. And he was a young man that was being, sought after some really big programs after his junior year, and we found him early and excited to get him here. He's a big kid who can run, has great athletic ability. And then Yusef Thomas is out of Memphis, one of the best programs out of the city of Memphis, which is really good football, very athletic, can run. And Jaden Pask. Jaden, really more of that strong safety dog backer for us. And he was the 813 Defensive Player of the Year down in Tampa. What a great accolade for that young man. So excited about that group. When you talk about the defensive line, you really talk about 2 different positions, right? You talk about your interior defensive line and your edge guys. Interior, really 2 young men that jump out at me. Trey Noe, who was an all-state football player in Tennessee on both sides, offensive line and defensive line. To be honest, probably could do either here. We're going to really start his career on the defensive side. We think he can really be impactful for us there. And Jared Price is a young man out of West Virginia. Really reminds us of the 2 seniors that are leaving the program with Corey and Clax. He's a big guy. He's physical inside. Trey has the ability to move well. He's more of a Bryce Perry Martin type player. The edge guys, the defensive ends, which is really a hybrid position in our defense. As we now grow and recruit for who we are, we're a 4-2-5. So those edge guys are a combination of linebackers / ends. And so the 2 young men I think have a great shot of being impactful early for us are really 2 guys that were really high school running backs. Now they both played defense and they were both probably more linebackers and at times would play up as a 5 technique as a stand-up backer. But they're both athletic guys. They're 230 pounds. Were the leading rushers on their high school football teams and also played some defensive end linebacker. And That's what we want. We want versatile guys. And, Ryan Moog and Jake Soliski really are those two guys that we're excited about. Hopefully can help us continue to get more pressure on the quarterback. We thought it was really important when recruiting this position that we add some much needed depth, but guys that could come in and compete, and guys that were ready to compete. So we got 4 young men right now that are coming in to be Wildcats. We'll probably add one more down the road, but we think it's a really talented group. Quentin James is a corner from Northern Virginia, Lake Braddock. He's the all-time leading scorer for his high school basketball program. I think that speaks volumes for what kind of athlete he is. And then, the other guys in that group, Brian Jacobs, maybe pound for pound the best football player in the group. I mean, he's a young man who's been a part of 3 state championships and done amazing things down at Charlotte Catholic. And we're so blessed that he chose us. And Bernard Turner and Chris Panko are the 2 that round out that class. And they're both guys that can do a lot of things. They're guys that could really be a safety, possibly play corner, maybe a free safety, a strong safety, just really talented football players. And they both had great careers. I mean, Chris was the 704 Defensive Player of the Year from the Bronco Nagurski Awards back in December. And so, Chris and Bernard are definitely guys that we're excited to add along with Brian and Quentin. We think it's a great group for our group to continue to build. When recruiting the offensive line, we knew it was really important that we brought in guys that could help us build depth and be a part of the future of what we're going to do offensively. We think we have a great group already here on campus, but you got to keep building that group. It's such a large group, and it's really the only position we graduated from last year. The first young man jumps out at me, Chris Garoga, who is a very talented OLDL guy out of Northern Virginia. Really could probably do either one. But we love his size, we love his physicality and who we are as an offense. We just think he's an ideal fit for us and really could play inside or outside at guard or tackle. Following up, Tyler Payne, a young man out of South Florida, just a really talented guy. He's a guy that really, when it's all said and done, is going to probably be 6'4", 6'5", pushing 300 pounds right now. He's 6'4", 275, 280, and plays with great balance, has light feet, and he's a physical kid. Luca DeLosa is from right here in our backyard, Audrey Kell High School out of Charlotte. He's a tackle, very athletic kid, a kid you see make tackles on special teams. He's really built to play tackle on our offense, moves really well, 6'5", 270 right now. And then Chris Tuberville will round out this group. He's a center we're bringing in this class. We thought that was really important. I think it's important to recruit centers, guys that are used to snapping, guys that are used to what I call starting the car. And so important in our gun option offense that we have that guy and ready to go in the future. And so excited about that group and probably hoping to add one more as we finish up the class later on in the spring. So our quarterback group this year, our goal was to bring in 2 guys. And from the get-go, we thought it was important to bring in a guy that we really felt, I would consider traditional, true quarterback. Guy that played the position not necessarily in an option offense, but in a traditional offense. And that young man's Connor Norwood. And Connor is a young man that turned down really some bigger offers to become a Wildcat, and he threw for 2,300 yards his senior year, rushed for 600 yards. Certainly has the ability to run. And I actually think he's an ideal fit for what we do. Now, he's a young quarterback, meaning, didn't really transition to quarterback till late in his high school career, but didn't play in an option-style offense. They did use his athletic ability, so we saw that on film. The second quarterback we brought in, we really thought it was important to bring a quarterback-sized athlete, a guy that could do a lot of things, right? Braden Oakley. He's out of the greater Greensboro area. Had an unbelievable senior year. You're talking about a young man that amassed almost 3,500 total yards of offense, threw for 1,500, rushed for almost 1,500, 37 touchdowns. But probably falls more in line as your traditional quarterback, and he'll probably learn a couple positions. Not just the quarterback position, but he will probably learn some other offensive positions, whether it's wide out, whether it's slot, whether it's O-back. Just a very talented guy that, as his career goes on, we'll be finding ways to get him the football. As a recruiter, you got to look down the road, right? You got to know that there's going to be a good core group that's going to graduate, and that's actually going to hit us pretty hard after this year. So we thought it was important to really bring that next wave in, and I think I mean, if there's one position group that really just jumps out at you just with stats and what their careers were at their high schools, it's our group of running backs and slots. Their numbers are really phenomenal. And we've kind of broken them up into two categories. The running back position, we consider our O-backs, two young men that we think are really good fits for that position, Dylan Sparks and Tyler Dittmer. Tyler's out of Florida, was a two-time 6A All-State player there, amassed over 5,500 yards in his career and 60 touchdowns. Really amazing yards, and his film, it just jumps off at you. It really does. And Dylan Sparks is a guy that really came on this senior year and had a great senior season at Northern Virginia. Really burst on the scene, and really excited to get him. I think they're two different backs. I think Dylan is really kind of your downhill physical runner. Really reminds you of really a Wesley and a Story type runner, and Tyler, can really get on the edge, and so they're two different style runners, but guys that we need in our program. The slot position, which we know is probably the most versatile position in our program, two young men that we have slated there. I spoke of one earlier when we talked about California, Kenny Collins. Kenny was a slot / tailback out of LA, really playing some of the best high school football in the country, amassed over 1,000 yards his senior year, and that's not easy out there, and so blessed to get him. We think he really reminds you of Eli Turner, who had, I think we all know what a phenomenal first year for us. And Ayers Hilliard is the other young man who just really, I think probably as a junior, including us at camp, probably really maybe thought when he was here and coming to camp, he'd be a heck of a DB grab for us. But then just as you watch his film as a running back and a slot, just jumps off at you. Maybe the fastest guy in the class, can really roll. We ran some really good times for us at camp, and really excited to get him here. So Caden is a local, really had a great career kicking and punting for his program. I think he was 100% touchbacks on his kickoffs this year, and we all know what kind of weapon that is, right? And Caden's he's a young man that has been around our program a lot. He comes to a lot of our games. He was at numerous camps for us this summer, and just and we're blessed to get him. He had some really nice offers as well. The last group that I'd like to touch on in our recruiting conversation is really our receiving core, our tight ends and receivers. We got two young men coming in that we think are really playmakers for us. The first at tight end, Lucas Raber, who was two-time South Carolina tight end of the year, just had a phenomenal career, and he really reminds you of Hunter. His size, the way he moves, you can split him out like a receiver. He can put his hand on the ground. So excited about him. And Jaden Waddell, probably one of the last guys that I'll speak about. Maybe the best all-around athlete in the class. He's a kid that could play corner for us. We're going to start his career at receiver. So in his high school career, he's been a quarterback, he's been a running back, he's been a receiver, he's been a corner. He was a conference player of the year in 2017, and just what a fantastic athlete, and so excited to get him in the group. And as I look down my list here, we've answered the biggest thing we wanted to answer in this class, which was building on depth and building on momentum from what our program was really able to do last fall, last recruiting season, which take the step to building Davidson football. And so this class was important to just follow up, from a really good recruiting class to we think we have a talented roster here. Now, we just need to continue to bring guys in that can compete with this roster and make us stronger, make us better. And I'm so proud of our staff and how hard they work to accomplish this group. And, I think we'll have a couple more guys join this list as we head into spring, and we're excited about that. But what a great start to this winter season, and glad to put a really closing into this recruiting season and ready to get into spring football.